The International Newsnet World Report is a national television news show available in more than 30 million homes. We broadcast daily real news the networks won't tell you. We are solely viewer-supported. That means you. You can donate at our website, inenworldreport.net. We hope you find the following interview informative and helpful.
Last Friday, the House of Representatives passed legislation authorizing $124 billion in war funding, with the stipulation American combat troops withdraw from Iraq by September 2008. 14 Democrats broke ranks to vote against the bill. 8 of them were progressives. Democratic Representative Dennis Kucinich of Ohio, who has been a spokesperson within the party for progressives, said, "If you want peace, stop funding the war. If you want peace, stand for the truth." Congressman Kucinich is also a candidate for president, and he now joins us by phone from Washington, D.C. Welcome, Congressman Kucinich.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
Congressman Kucinich, why did you vote against this bill?
I think Congress has a responsibility to stop the war, not in 1 year, not in 2 years, not in 5 or 10 years, but now. And so the way you do that is to deny funding. And I advocated that Congress not even put up the bill, but they did, and they passed it. And it now has basically given the president a license to keep the war going. However, President Bush isn't satisfied with the bill that Congress passed. He will veto it. It will come back to the Congress. And at this point, unless something different happens, Congress will have trapped itself into voting for the continuation of the war through the end of President Bush's term.
There were certain things within the bill. The provision was taken out to mandate the president to go to Congress to ask permission to invade Iran if that should come up. The bill also pretends to limit how many days the soldier can be kept in Iraq. There's also something in the bill that the president can waive the restrictions that Nancy Pelosi put in, also leaving permanent bases in Iraq. I mean, there are so many things about this bill. Which of the things, do you feel these are all egregious, or what do you feel was most egregious?
Well, I'm not sure about the issue of permanent bases. I think that there may have been some language that said they were going to seek to limit it, but the administration does have bases there. And it's the administration's plan to keep the United States occupation. The bases will service the occupation and provide the place for the soldiers to be kept. We've got to end this war. We've got to end the occupation, close the bases, bring the troops home. And that's what my proposal, H.R. 1234, envisions, that the U.S. ends the occupation. At that point, we can go to the world community and say we're changing our direction. We're not occupying. We're not an invading army. We're leaving, and as the U.S. troops leave, an international security and peacekeeping force can be organized to come in. But we'll not get that kind of help unless we end the occupation.
One of the things the Baker Commission recommended was the privatization of Iraq's oil resources. We see the Iraq hydrocarbon law being put in front of the Iraqi Congress. It may be passed in some form. Doesn't this become the reason that we protested the war when we saw 15 million people in the streets going no blood for oil? Hasn't this really come full circle, and that's what it has become?
Well put. I think most Americans know that if Iraq had not had oil, we wouldn't have gone into Iraq, because certainly Iraq didn't have anything to do with 9/11. So there's no other plausible reason that we went in other than to be able to grab the oil. If someone says, well, it's about Saddam Hussein, then why didn't we leave when he was captured? I mean, you have to understand that Iraq has the second largest supply of oil in the world, and that was very attractive to an administration which comes right from the oil industry. And so here we are, illegally invading a nation, occupying it, being responsible for total devastation of the infrastructure of Iraq, and the deaths of over 650,000 people. It was about oil from the beginning, and it is more than passing strange that Democrats should be in a position of basically giving approval to the entire enterprise of the Iraq invasion by having a provision in legislation which was passed with a Democratic majority that forces Iraq to to pass a hydrocarbon law which sets the stage for privatization of the oil industry. Since it was about oil from the beginning, why should we be the ones that facilitate the Bush administration's corrupt invasion of Iraq and their attempt to steal the oil of Iraq?
Yesterday, impeachment activist Anthony St. Martin approached Congressman John Conyers outside of his office on the issue of impeachment. Mr. Conyers responded to Mr. St. Martin's inquiry saying that the people do not want to impeach this president. Congressman Kucinich, we've heard that you've begun contacting supporters to ask if you should embrace impeachment as an active member of Congress. What has been the reaction to the idea so far?
I think that there's a great number of people across this country who feel that President Bush and Vice President Cheney have violated their oaths of office, have shredded the Constitution, violated international law, and should be held accountable. Now, some members of Congress have said that impeachment should be taken off the table. I don't believe that's an appropriate thing to do because that is the vehicle by which Congress assumes its constitutional role as a check and balance to administrative abuse of power. I have asked for a conversation to be held among the American people because I think we do need to talk about it. And Kucinich.us is the place where we started this discussion. And we have heard from a large number of people from all over America. So many emails have come in that, you know, our server went down a couple of times because there's such a high degree of interest. I would like to say this, though, that if an impeachment is to proceed, the tone of it is everything. I think that there's too much anger in America already. If we approach an impeachment, it has to be from the standpoint of this is what we do in order to uphold our laws, but at the same time, it shouldn't be done with any enthusiasm nor with anger, because that would just be a process that would be very, very bad for the country if that's how it moves forward. But I think there is a place for the celebration of democratic values, for an insistence on a constitutional form of government, and that's why I'm listening very carefully to what the American people say, and I would say just stay tuned.
Congressman Kucinich, one more question. The progressive left is becoming increasingly frustrated with the Democrats. Not only their inability to stop the war, but their intentions and motives as well. What could you say to the millions of people who have worked so hard for peace and justice and who now feel ignored? Why should they stay with the Democratic Party?
Our striving for peace and justice must go beyond the confines of a political party. Certainly those of us who work within a party have a great responsibility to do everything we can to have a party become a vehicle for peace, for social and economic justice. But we shouldn't cause the lack of interest in pursuing peace within a political party to be a reason for our abandoning that process. And so I actively advocate that people find what it is inside themselves that keeps them interested in peace and it causes them to work for peace and desire peace, and to use that as an organizational power. We cannot rely on political parties to bring peace, but we can rely on our own selves, on our organizational abilities, on our ability to connect with our neighbors and our friends, and take this past the political process. Because while the political process inevitably makes judgments on both political parties and who shall lead this country, we cannot wait for that process to be able to affirm a course of action. We have to be ready to do it ourselves, and that's done through organization, through bringing people together in town halls, through working door to door, and that is really the process of revitalizing American politics and of making our politics relevant again when we close ranks with people all across the country who desire a sustainable peace, not only in our communities, but in our nation's relationship with the countries of the world.
Congressman Dennis Kucinich, thank you so much for joining us on INN.
And thank you.